For the first time in the nation's history, the majority of children born to women 30 and younger are born out of wedlock. 40% of children go to bed tonight with no father. It is a generational epidemic of boys who can shave. Guys who have become anatomically men, but they are spiritually, emotionally boys. It is a crisis. It is a crisis. And you need to understand that marketing comes in to fill this void for you young men. You are a man if you drink this beer. You are a man if you drive this truck. You are a man if you eat this meat. And let me tell you that all they're trying to do is take your lack of an understanding of masculinity and fill it by creating goods and services and products to take your money if you're foolish enough to believe that what you drive and how much meat you can shove through your colon and what kind of whiskey you drink creates ultimately a man. You need to understand that. You need to understand that. Making matters even worse is the absolute generational father wound epidemic. Young men either had no dad or they had a bad dad that they have not forgiven. The result is there is a deep and profound father wound in a whole generation of young men. The result is they don't know what a man is. They don't know what a man does. They tend to overreact in one of two ways, becoming too tough, the kind of thuggish, brutish, emotionally distant, conquering alpha male, or too tender, the really nice, sweet, easygoing guy that gets run over and taken advantage of. And if he does get married and raise children, they are not defended and protected. And men tend to go one of two ways when they have this deep father wound. Either they become too tough or they become too tender, and they don't understand that Jesus was both tough and tender. There was times he was very tough dealing with religious people and very tender dealing with broken people, and he was both depending upon the need of the circumstance. I love young men. I love you, young men. I have hope for young men because Paul says that you are the glory of God. And this is God's particular word to you. This is the Apostle Paul writing in 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a what? A little boy. There's nothing wrong acting like a little boy when you're a little boy. When Jesus was 12, he was mature for 12. When he was 22, he was mature for 22. When he was 32, he was mature for 32. But if you're 32 acting like you did when you're 12, that's immature. You are not a child. Part of the problem in this culture is there is no rite of passage. Guys don't know when they become men. Is it when you're 16 and you can drive, or 18 when you can vote and join the military? Is it 21 when you can drink? Is it when you graduate from college? Is it when you get married? And what's happening now is marriage is being pushed off by men all the way to the age of 30. That's about when the average man gets married. Now, what happens is, in that time, what we've done is we've extended his boyhood. We've actually created a life stage that the Bible doesn't know about called adolescence. It used to be you were a boy and then you became a man. We created this middle gap for you young men called adolescence. I call them boys who can shave. These are guys that have a man's opportunities, but a boy's responsibilities. These are guys who keep freeloading off their mother. They're boomerang guys that keep moving back into their parents' home. These are guys who spend their 20s dating, relating, and fornicating and not worshiping and serving and giving. That's the problem. And what it is, it's a whole bunch of guys who are trying to extend their childhood years as far as they can. And I'll tell you where it gets real sick. Some guys will push their childhood years all the way into their 30s, and then 10 years later in their 40s, they get a midlife crisis and go back and have their childhood revisited when they've spent the majority of their adult years in childhood already. He says, when I was a child, I what? I spoke like a child. How do you speak? You speak like a man. You speak like a child. Are you impetuous? Are you cursing all the time? Are you one who can't think through and then withhold some of your frustrations and tuck it in a bit? Do you speak like a child when you speak of women, when you speak of children, when you speak of responsibilities, when you speak of your father, when you speak of your mother? Do you speak in such a way that brings life or death? He says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I thought like a child. There's nothing wrong with thinking like a child if you're a child. There is a lot of crisis culturally that happens when you think like a child and you're a man. You know the difference between the thoughts of a child and a man? A child thinks someone should take care of me. A man thinks I should take care of someone. A child thinks the world exists to serve me, and a man thinks I exist to serve the world. We live in a day when, quite frankly, a lot of boys who can shave want the government and their mother and their family and their friends and their church to mother them. And I would say that many men have been over-mothered and under-fathered. The result is that you're looking for someone else to take on your responsibilities. You're pushing them to your parents, to your girlfriend, to the state, to the government. The school needs to raise my kids. The church needs to save my family. The government needs to provide for our well-being. The youth pastor needs to make sure that my wayward child is brought home. The children's ministry director needs to make sure that my kid knows the Bible stories. And we think like a child. We hand all of our responsibilities and opportunities over to others. It's not the job of the state to take care of your family. It's not the job of the church to save your family. It's not the job of the cops to restrain your family. It's your job. It's your responsibility. You're the head of household. These are the opportunities that God gives to you. And the government can support, and the schools can help, and the church can come alongside. But really, the great gap that exists in our culture is exclusively men. The majority of people who attend church, women. Women's ministries are always bigger than men's ministries. That women are always serving more than men are serving. That women are always giving more than men are giving. And there are women that are going to church in their single years and men are not. And so men get drugged there by their mother. And then in their years of being a young man, they're just sinning and they are foolish. And I love you men and I'm glad you're here. But you each know 100 guys who are absolute idiots that need to be here. You each know 100 idiots who need to be here. Because they were drugged to church by their mother, they are gone and sinning and thinking and acting like children, and they won't be back until they've got a woman pregnant and she's desperate and she drags him and the children to the church, hopefully not on game day because he'll never show up. Because his religion is football and not Christianity. And he is far more interested in a temple of athletics and some guys carrying a dead pig over a line than walking with God and building a legacy. I'm not against football, but I think football is a great recreational activity and a terrible religion. I think if you're more excited about Ohio State than the resurrection of Jesus Christ, you've got to rethink everything, and I love you. But how many guys, even in this culture, they're like, man, I'll tell you, my priorities are football, not family. My priorities are ultimately to enjoy my recreation and entertainment, to think like a child, to think like a child, to think like a child, and to expect the church to raise my own children. And then find a good church where my wife feels safe and they've got programs for my whole family so I can sit on my can and say, I've taken care of my family because I went to work and put food on the table. Your job is not just to provide financially, but spiritually and emotionally as well. And there is a pastor in your home and you are that pastor. And that's how men think. This is my wife. These are my children. This is my opportunity. These are my responsibilities. A child thinks, entertain me, feed me, fill up my sippy cup with beer, bring me chicken wings, on a Disney plate, and just let me sit here and pretend like I'm a man. Okay? When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. Some of you are thinking, well, this doesn't sound right. This is not how I think, because your brain is broken because the culture is corrupted. Your brain is broken because the culture is corrupted. Your strongest years, men, are your 20s and 30s. How many of you guys are on the backside of 40 and you realize your power years are in the rearview mirror, they're not in the windshield? These are your strongest years. These are your critical years. These are your crucial years. Don't waste them on porn. Don't waste them on chasing foolish women. Don't waste them on bitterness. Don't waste them on recreational activity. Don't waste them on alcohol. Don't waste them on stupidity. Don't waste them on entertainment. Don't waste those years, invest those years.